Out with us today and help people change their own lives for good. Learn more at worldvision.org.
At Tyndall, we love to see our members face-to-face. Video chat with a Tyndall representative to do almost anything you do in a branch. Open a new account, apply for a loan, order a debit card, or just say hi. Download the Tyndall Video Banking app today.
The SEC lives here. Powered by Pepsi. WGS Excellent Ape in Panama City. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Come on! Come on!
Let's go.
It's time for the Coach James Hale Show.
Turn it on and rip the knob off.
104.3 ESPN Panama City.
And Happy New Year to all our listeners out there. This is ESPN 104.3 Northwest Florida. This is Dr. Chad Mitchell filling in for Coach James Hale. And we've got Randy here with us this morning.
And it should be a good show today.
I hope so. We're wishing everybody a Happy New Year. Randy, I thought I would probably start the show off with maybe a vote. And maybe we can get some callers in at call 215-6290 if you'd like to respond to some of this. Now, some of this is pure entertainment that I've created this list, and some of my Georgia fans might not like it, but we're trying to get people to call in for sure. But, you know, according to my list, the top college football issues of 2021, number one.
Oh, we know what that is.
Name, image, and likeness.
Yep.
You know, I mean, that has been, you know, pervasive through the college football season. It started off the season. And then number two is not just the transfer portal, but the NIL issue plus the transfer portal, because we're seeing a lot of that here, especially at the end of the season. So that's number two. Number three, Alabama's second consecutive Heisman. I threw that in for Coach Hale and myself.
Well, he posted it 4 times on Facebook already, so yeah.
Number four, the COVID impact on bowls.
Are you a little bit surprised at that? And one of the reason I say that is, you know, somebody had argued over the weekend about how the COVID protocols have changed for the NFL, but really we're living by, in college football, last year's protocols.
Yeah.
Or things are different now.
Yeah, and I hope to explore that on this show,
yeah.
Especially with certain teams that will be coming up, but we'll definitely be getting back to that one. Number five, and I think Coach Hale mentioned this on one of the shows previously, but back on September 15th, we had the death of legendary Trevor Mowad. And for those of you that don't know who he is the mental conditioning expert that Coach Saban and some of his previous associates like Kirby Smart and others used to help have the proper mental conditioning during different times of the season to persevere mentally and psychologically. In fact, some refer to him as, you know, the sports psychology expert, but he was quick to point out in videos I've seen of him that he is not a psychologist.
Right.
But he had a major impact to the game. Of course, his death this year, that's one of the issues that I, put on this list. He's number five. Then number six, drum roll, Bama beats Georgia.
Come on
again.
Now. Yeah.
Again. Number seven, the coaching turnover. It seems like the coaching turnover is huge right now.
This has been a year of not only coaching turnovers, but really a ton of surprises if you think about it. You know, who would have thunk that Brian Kelly would have gone to LSU?
Right.
You know, he's got a great job. He's at Notre Dame, been there, the winningest coach in the history of Notre Dame. And then just in the middle of the night, he's at LSU.
Yeah.
The other one is I was stunned, but I was excited for my friends who are Miami fans, and for Miami to end up with Mario Cristobal, that was a huge get for Miami.
That sure was.
And
Yeah,
some
I agree with that.
some people will argue and say that, well, they've tried this whole, he's one of us thing, with Randy Shannon. They tried it with Mark Richt. They tried it with, and Mark Richt was successful. I think health issues is the reason
Sure.
he got out. But then they tried it again just recently, and so we'll see. But Mario Cristobal, I think, is a totally different deal. That was a huge get for Miami.
Oh, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I think they're going to do well. They're already starting to do well as far as, recruiting.
Mhm.
He knows how to recruit South Florida.
Yeah.
And, what a big win for Miami. Now, speaking of Miami, it looks like they pulled out of one of the bowls because of COVID.
They did.
So let's talk about that a minute.
Well, they won't be able to play. They were going to play against Washington State in the Sun Bowl, and Washington, they're still trying to find an opponent for Washington State. So there's a lot of money tied to these bowl games.
Right.
And
so that's the Sun Bowl. It was
Yeah.
supposed to be Miami versus Washington State.
Right.
They're looking for someone. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe FSU could step up.
hey, how about that?
I know. I don't know who.
I like that local twist.
I know. I had to give a local twist to it. I don't know what the criteria are other than maybe wins.
Well, I don't think that matters so much, because think about what was the other bowl that got canceled? I think
It's the Gator Bowl that was going to be canceled unless somebody filled in for Texas A&M and Rutgers.
Yeah, and I don't think
in.
they had a winning schedule, a winning
Right.
record.
So
They
it's-
had like 5-7, I think, is where they were.
Yeah. So it's going to be Rutgers versus Wake Forest in the Gator Bowl. And then we had Hawaii pull out of the Hawaii Bowl.
I know. I know.
Pulled out of their home field advantage, I guess. And I think that one's canceled, isn't it? I believe it's canceled.
Yeah, they didn't.
Now that was going to be Hawaii versus Memphis.
Yeah.
And then there was another one called actually two more bowls. The Military Bowl.
Yep.
Boston College pulled out because of COVID reasons, and they were playing East Carolina. And then you had the Fenway Bowl, which was Virginia versus SMU.
Yeah.
So, it looks like COVID is, wreaking havoc again, right or wrong. I think, down the road we'll know a little bit more we'll have more statistics about the Omicron variant. Is it really as deadly as, the previous variants, say Delta, that kind of thing of COVID? Is it going to have the same, impact on young people or not? And
because young people really have kind of gotten,
right.
I don't want to say a pass, but really weren't as affected as much as, people a little bit older.
Sure. And it makes you wonder, what about these playoff games that are coming up? One of the articles I saw, and this is hidden deep in all the internet, but Alabama had 92% of the players that were already vaccinated. 92% of the vaccinated players
Right.
have had a booster.
Mm.
In other words, it looks like Alabama is trying to prevent any kind of problem there. And of course, they had two coaches that had COVID. One was Bill O'Brien. I'm blanking on the other guy's name, but they were out with COVID as far as practice is concerned. Hopefully, they're going to be back by the playoff game, and that's what everybody's predicting.
Well, I think my prediction is that somehow Cincinnati will get it, Alabama will get awarded the win, and then the national championship game, whoever that is, Michigan or Georgia, and Alabama wins by default.
Well, as an Alabama fan, I don't know about winning by default, and
Well, you would think, with all the stuff
be
going
a major
on.
asterisk.
Yeah.
There. Yeah.
Well, Saban came out and said, "Hey, we're going back to where we were before. Guys, come on in. We're gonna stay together here. We're not gonna be
Testing.
out running around and all that kind of stuff." And so, I don't know. You would think that, and this thing is so unpredictable, it's hard to say. But you would think that these schools and college football would really kind of have I don't want to say better handle, but for lack of a better word, on the COVID stuff. Look at the NFL; they're moving right along. Baseball did a great job last year of being able to kind of stay away. They had a couple of things, but nothing major. Right. So I don't know. I don't completely and totally understand the way it's working now in college football.
Well, and I'll ask the question. Do you think Texas A&M is kind of, wimping out here?
I don't know.
I see why you're saying you don't know, because there's not enough information out there. But you just kind of wonder. They're citing not just COVID,
right?
But injuries and those kind of things. And I don't know. If I were a coach,
right,
I would look at, okay, I may not be able to field my best players, but I'm gonna get to play the younger talent.
Right.
And give them some experience and let them have some fun in a game that basically
and more practice
doesn't
time
count for the season. I mean, it counts for history, right?
Right.
But, improve my program.
Right.
And so I really kind of question that, but I don't have all the facts.
Right.
And so I want to be
and they don't let out
cautious.
any facts.
Right.
The only thing that they say is because of COVID-19 issues.
Right.
And they leave it at that. So you don't know what
But they did mention the injury situation, that kind of thing. In fact, most of the teams, it wasn't just COVID; it's the injuries. They're not gonna. Maybe they're missing key players for certain positions. That kind of thing. And I get it; they don't want to look horrible out there, but at the same time, it's psychologically, it's one of those things that, hey, we're going to overcome COVID. We're going to overcome this. We're going to field some players. We're going to see what, the young talent can do. But then again, when you have, Florida losing to UCF,
mm-hmm.
Maybe there's some factors there.
That really is the exclamation point to the season for Florida, and then the little brawl there at the end, even though it was handled really well.
It was handled very well.
I mean, the assistant coaches, the staff got in there and just...
got right in the middle of it.
Zipped it. I mean, it was like... Because it started, you're thinking, this is about to get ugly.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, it was like, oh, well, it's over.
Yeah.
And they just separated them out, and it was just...
the game was over, so it's not like... do you get a penalty?
Exactly, yeah. The officials are already... They're gone.
There might be a fine or something associated with that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, total chaos and craziness with the bowls games here, and it's not just the NIL. It's not just the players entering the transfer portal. It's not just players not playing in the bowl game or opting out, as they call it. It's COVID. Injuries. Do we have a team? Can we field a team?
Right.
Those kind of things. So, multiple games here that are in jeopardy, some of which have been canceled. Now,
the Miami game, or the Sun Bowl, according to the executive director, he said at this moment, the 2021 Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl game has not been canceled. Although the University of Miami has withdrawn from the game, we are currently looking for a possible replacement team.
Good.
So some of them are canceling, some of them are saying, you know what, we got a lot of stuff going on here,
Absolutely.
A lot of planning, a lot of work put into this. Let's see if we can't field a game.
And there's some money involved.
Absolutely.
So a team that can take advantage of that, maybe they use COVID to their advantage.
Yeah.
Maybe FSU could be one of those.
Well, I wouldn't be opposed. I'd love to see them play.
To see them back on
another opportunity to get some practice time in.
Play some younger players.
Yep, exactly.
Those kind of things. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I think it'd be a good thing. So we'll see what happens, but you never know. Nobody thought Rutgers was going to get in, but all of a sudden now they're playing in a bowl game.
That's amazing to me.
And I'm going to tell you something. You may not know a whole lot about Rutgers, but Greg Schiano, their head coach, he played ball there. He was their head coach before he left to try to go do the NFL thing at Tampa Bay. And he had them humming before. And you watch next couple of years, Rutgers is going to be they're going to be contenders in the Big Ten.
Oh, it'd be awesome to see.
Yeah.
They're that old school name.
Yeah, smack mouth football.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that'd be awesome to see.
Yeah, that would be. All right, let's take a quick time out if we can. We'll run down a couple of our sponsors of the show this morning. I want to thank J. Michael's Coldest Beer and just a great place for locals and the tourists, of course, love it. J. Michael's Restaurant. Also, Steverson Air Conditioning. If you're looking at maybe getting your system replaced or want to take a look at it, save yourself some money, call Steverson Air Conditioning, and they'll treat you right. So we'll come right back here in just a couple of minutes. You're listening to the Coach James Hale Show here on 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good Monday morning. I'm forecasting partly to mostly sunny skies today. Watch out for some morning fog and the high near 75. Southwest wind at 10. Water temperature in the Gulf 69. Chance of a few showers overnight, partly to mostly cloudy in the mid-60s, and a few more showers expected Tuesday into Wednesday, highs in the 70s. This weather forecast has been brought to you by Mid-South Lumber, best little lumber yard in Panama City and Youngstown. For 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida, I'm meteorologist Tim Root.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Greeny.
More people chose to watch Tiger Woods and his 12-year-old son play this event that if they weren't in it, no one would even know it was happening than watched a major championship in golf. We sometimes say an athlete is bigger than the sport he or she plays. In Tiger's case, that is 100% true.
Weekday afternoons from 2 till 4. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Corum's Steak and Egg, home of the world-famous Heavenly Hash, has been family-owned and operated since 1986. Open daily 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Corum's Steak and Egg prides itself in offering fresh, never-frozen favorites at family-friendly prices. Come in and check out our daily lunch and dinner specials. Corum's Steak and Egg at 804 South Tyndall Parkway, where you never leave hungry. Also available on DoorDash and Grubhub.
At Tyndall Federal Credit Union, we have the perfect loan for any home. Buy a house in the perfect neighborhood with one of our traditional mortgage options. Or take on that fixer-upper with our rehabilitation mortgage. Make the home of your dreams come to life with our new construction loan. Or get a land loan to purchase the lot where you'll build your dream home one day. We have the perfect loan for any home. Only at Tyndall. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing lender. NMLS number 597599.
Do you know who I am?
If he was the last person on Earth,
I'm kind of a big deal.
mankind would still have a chance.
We may have to repopulate the Earth.
Now back to the Coach James Hale Show.
I'm very important.
Live from the J. Michael Studio at 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
And you're listening to the Coach James Hale Show. I'm Dr. Chad Mitchell, sitting here with Randy, filling in for Coach Hale. This morning, I thought in segment 2, I thought we'd talk about the bowl games. Maybe run the list for those of you who have not kept up with all of the bowls. Kind of give a shout out to some of the lesser teams that have played on some of the other days during the week. And then run through the list here and maybe get some predictions at some point here in the show.
There's a lot of games coming up, too.
Absolutely.
And especially this week.
And good matchups.
I agree.
Yeah, so there's some of these that I really definitely want to see. But we'll go all the way back to December 17th when the bowl game started. We had the Tail Greeter Cure Bowl. Don't really understand what the Tail Greeter Cure Bowl is. Maybe I need to look that up. But we had Coastal Carolina 47, Northern Illinois 41. Then there was the Bahamas Bowl, Middle Tennessee 31, the Toledo Rockets 24. Then Saturday, December 18th, we had the roofclaim.com Boca Raton Bowl, Western Kentucky 59, Appalachian State 38.
I watched that game. That was a offensive juggernaut.
I always like watching App State.
Yeah, but Western just lit them up.
I did not get a chance to watch that game, but I'm looking at the score and going, what happened? Because I think App State was supposed to win that game by everybody's
And Western
prediction.
just came out and just, of course, they've been that way all season. Huge, offensive team and putting up a lot of points. And App State just didn't have an answer for it.
Wow. I mean, because usually App State's pretty good
I
in
know.
those type of games.
Yep.
So then we had the Cricket Celebration Bowl, South Carolina State 31, Jackson State 10. Of course, there was a lot of people that watched that game, paid attention to that because of Dion.
Yeah.
and I think we made reference to it last week.
Well, that was right around the time when everybody was, announcing their classes and Dion ended up pulling that one player from Florida State, and I think maybe the team and even Dion got a little sidetracked and with all the media hoopla and weren't prepared, and it showed.
Everyone was, predicting that they were going to win this game, but I mean, they were physically handled during that game.
Yeah, totally agree.
I mean, South Carolina State came out and put it on them.
Yeah.
And that happens in college football. That's why we play the game.
That's right.
That's why the underdog wins sometimes.
Yep, you're exactly right.
It's not always going to go exactly the way we think. In fact, later on in the show, I have a list here of what the predictions were for some of the bowls, and it's about 50-50 on the
Yeah. Oh, your predictions are?
No, not my predictions, but the predictions by the media and all that.
Oh, okay, yeah. Versus what the true outcome
was going to be and all that, right? Versus the true outcome. I'm sort of saving that towards the end of the show. Have a little fun with that. But anyway, let's keep moving along. I don't know how to. It's the PUBG Mobile New Mexico Bowl. I don't know the company PUBG. Are you familiar with that at all?
No, I am not.
PUBG Mobile. Anyway, Fresno State 31. UTEP 34. And then we have the Radiance Technologies Independence Bowl. I actually watched some of that game.
Oh, did you really?
That was UAB 31, BYU 28.
Yeah.
BYU had their hands full with UAB.
Mm-hmm.
UAB was physical. At times it looked like to me they were dominating the line of scrimmage, both sides of the ball. Of course, BYU hung in there with them, but UAB comes away with a win. Of course, that's fairly local for those of us in the Panhandle.
Absolutely.
Birmingham's just right up the road.
And just think, what was it, 5 or 6 years ago, they canceled the football program.
Oh, yeah. So I'll give you a little interesting fact. When I was in medical school at UAB, I think I was either a freshman or a sophomore. They started the football team.
Really?
Yeah. It was really
That was when it started?
Yeah, it was when it started.
So it's been around for a long time.
I'm having to think way, way back. Randy, I hate it when I have to do that. But I think that was somewhere back in the early 90s. Maybe that's a fact we'll look up in between segments or something. And for any UAB fans.
So you remember when they actually started football?
I was in med school when they started football. And they were, my recollection, okay?
Yeah.
It's not as good. I mean, since that's so many years ago.
But was the fanfare and all of that, was there a lot of excitement around it, or do you remember that?
There was a little bit of excitement. I think for people that lived in Birmingham that really sponsored the school.
Yeah.
They were always concerned about Alabama and Auburn.
Right.
There was some politics that, Bear Bryant never wanted UAB to ever have a football team.
Right.
And so there was a lot of politics surrounding that. But when, UAB is a very large university.
And a lot of people don't know that.
They don't know that. I mean, and I don't know the statistics now, but even back when I was there in med school, they had the number of students that Alabama and Auburn had.
Wow, that's amazing.
And people didn't know,
right?
Right. And that's where UCF kind of falls here in Florida, right?
Yeah.
People don't understand that UCF has the number 2 largest student body in the country.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Just crazy.
We got Rob that just showed up in the studio.
Yeah, I mean,
one of our usual callers.
He said, I can't get through on the phone. I'll just show up,
Well,
I didn't want to try and text and drive, so.
Well, that's probably a good thing.
Be safe.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
How's everybody this morning?
We're doing good. We're running the list here of the bowl games, and we've kind of landed on UAB here, and we're about to move past that. But any comments?
Well,
about the UAB
Memphis is ready to go. They just, they're probably halfway to Hawaii. They just circle back around and go take Miami's place.
Yep, that's
That's not a bad idea.
I don't see why they're not. They've practiced everything. Rutgers is the one that had to call everybody back from Christmas break and stuff.
Well, Washington State now is looking for an opponent since Miami's out of the Sun Bowl. So
there you go.
There you go. That's how to do it. That's exactly how to do it.
We didn't even think about that. All of a sudden we're scrambled. Well, the teams that can't play now they can play.
There you go. Man, Rob's got this figured out.
I know he does.
Well, a lot of people don't have a lot of common sense, so they might not think about that. But to me, that's an easy fix. You got teams that are sitting out now that have been practicing and ready to go.
Yeah.
And now they're not scheming against the team they're going to end up playing. But, it's like you said, why would Jimbo bump out when you got all these young kids that haven't played? And, he probably got his 15 practices in. So, why spend that money to travel and everything else? But, the SEC could say, how much are they going to lose?
Right.
10, 11 million.
That's what I kept thinking.
10, $11 million?
I kept thinking, why would you want to lose that money?
Right.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
And if you're trying to build a program, you're trying to be the best, you don't want to miss that money. I mean, we were talking about Alabama. 92% of the players that were vaccinated got a booster. They're concerned about COVID. They're trying to do everything they can to prevent it so they can play that game and make the money that is associated with, the playoffs.
Well, if it was injuries and all that, why didn't you decline your invitation back?
Sure.
At the time. I mean, look at Florida. I mean, Florida was down they had of their 8 starting defensive linemen, 4 of them were out.
Right.
Because of whatever. And I don't think Florida even had the COVID problems. They had people that were going to go ahead and get out for
the transfer portal.
And their quarterback.
A couple of them played, right?
Their quarterback played.
Jones
and he's
played.
Going, but there again, he's just because you're in the portal don't really mean you're leaving.
Right.
It's telling your coach, I'm looking, I'm not happy.
Well, like, Tank Bixby, I think, got talked back into staying at Auburn.
Right.
And Bo Nix left.
Right.
We may get into some of that when we get to the Auburn segment, but there's a lot of that going on.
Right.
So anyway, well, moving on to the other bowls here, we had the Lending Tree Bowl, Liberty 56, Eastern Michigan 20. I did watch that game.
Yeah.
Liberty looked great.
I went to that game.
Did you go to that game?
Yeah, I sat up in the press box. Yeah, it was. When we were sitting there, and Eastern Michigan, on their first drive, I mean, they drove it all the way down the field. I mean, it's like Liberty. It's like what happened to Liberty?
Right.
And then after that, I mean, it was like Liberty just turned it on, and that was it. And they couldn't be stopped. Yeah, it was a fun game to watch.
Well, that brings up a point. I saw an article over the weekend about momentum. And momentum in college football games. Does it exist, or is it just this legend? And what a reference there to, does momentum exist? This reporter was trying to disprove it. I forget who it was. He's trying to disprove it. And he said the more he tried to disprove it, the more people just called in and hammered away and was giving him example after example after example.
That's kind of like people that don't believe in karma.
Yeah, exactly.
People that don't believe in momentum have never played a sport.
Yeah. Well, so how would you define momentum?
Because it gets into your mentally.
It's a psychological mindset. That's what I think as well.
I mean, we used to use that even in little boy football. You had teams that once you got them down,
right,
you knew that they were going to start arguing amongst themselves and fighting with each other and everything like that, and you get in their mind. And that's, I mean, take Kentucky, 31, 32 years that Florida beat them, and you could tell Kentucky's up 21 points in the third quarter, and they let a guy come from a timeout and go stand over there on the sideline and nobody covering.
Right.
You give up an easy touchdown. Then all of a sudden you go, what's going to happen? And then they just keep right on, and they find a way to lose.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, is not only momentum, but it's just it's psychological.
Oh, absolutely. And you can see it. I mean, I've seen players. I think of Tim Tebow when Tim Tebow was at his height. psychologically, when he was, I mean, it was like he could do no wrong, right? Yeah. I mean, just magical moments, magical things happening.
Well, in his mind, he just believed.
Right, he believed
it. He was never out.
Yeah. And I've watched momentum take over with him several times.
Without question.
Right.
Do you not think that Auburn looked like that when Alabama was on the 2-yard line?
Momentum does shift from time to time.
Yes, for sure in games. Anyway.
All right, we'll take a quick timeout. A couple of sponsors. We want to certainly mention them this morning. Max Fit Sports Nutrition, dermatology specialist, Dr. Ward there. Also our friends at Juicy Seafood, Back Beach Road, right next to Blue Sky Express Car Wash. Matt and the folks over there make sure their new hours opening now at 7 a.m., closing at 7 p.m., so 7 to 7. 7 days a week, Blue Sky Express Car Wash. We're coming right back in just a couple of minutes.
ESPN 104.3, Northwest Florida.
Kevin Harlan from Monday Night Football on Westwood One with a preview of a big game between two 7-7 postseason hopeful teams, the Miami Dolphins and the New Orleans Saints. Miami is on a 6-game winning streak after a 1-7 start. And New Orleans is coming off back-to-back wins, including an impressive win over the Bucs. Kurt Warner will join me for the call from New Orleans on Monday Night Football.
Coverage starts at 6:30, kickoff 7:15 on your home for the NFL. ESPN Northwest Florida.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year from Jin Jin Super King Buffet. Have you been to Jin Jin Super King Buffet? It's not your average Jin Jin. They're open 365 days per year, and you can enjoy their hibachi grill, fresh sushi, mouth-watering crab legs by order, and you're gonna love their new Cajun selection. New choices are added often and always fresh. Bring the family out to Jin Jin Super King Buffet for your holiday dinner. Next to Wonderworks at 9802 Front Beach Road on Panama City Beach. Open regular hours on Christmas Even Day and New Year's Even Day.
What are you so happy about? I'm on the pill. Aren't you two a bit old to worry about having more kids? Not her. Me. You lost me there, buddy. Steelman pills. Things weren't always looking up, if you catch my drift. So, my doctor prescribed me a little something. Like Viagra? Yeah, but that's expensive, and it wasn't covered by my insurance. Steelman pills cost me less than $3 a pill, and virtually the same effect. I just called and got over 40 pills for only $99. I have this friend who might be looking and... Well, if your friend wants some help, the consultation is free over the phone. No clinic. Steelman Pills sends it in the mail in a confidential package. I'm on it. I mean, my friend will be on it.
Steelman Pills. Going the extra mile to help men with erectile dysfunction.
800-764-9168. 800-764-9168. 800-764-9168. That's 800-764-9168.
If aliens showed up tomorrow and said, take us to your leader, you'd bring them to the Coach James Hale Show.
Danger, Bill Robinson, danger.
Live from the J. Michael Studio on 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
And we're back. ESPN 104.3 Northwest Florida. I'm Dr. Chad Mitchell filling in for Coach James Hale. We've got Randy here, and we've got one of our frequent callers, Rob Bauer, here in the studios. And we're talking college football. You know, if you've got any stories about Coach Hale, please call in.
And the worse they are, the better we like them.
Exactly, and it's 215-6290. We're definitely looking for callers, anything to get any dirt on Coach Hale, especially while he's gone. Anyway, I thought we'd finish the bowl schedule here and go through some of these scores and then talk about the upcoming game. Let's see, we left off, I think, with the Liberty game. That
it was the Liberty Eastern
Lending Tree Bowl. It was Liberty 56.
That was in Mobile.
Yes.
And it was at the new stadium that South Alabama had built on campus. And
was it nice?
Oh, man.
Well, how was the press box?
It was nice. I mean, as good as any press box that I've been in a lot of different places.
They named it after some Mitchell guy, right?
Yeah, it had up there Chadwick Mitchell.
It was Abraham, I think.
Yeah, it was.
I found that interesting. You can tell I watched the game.
Did you get an invite?
I did not. I didn't get to sit in the press box or anything.
Wait, you know,
They give you free tickets, nothing. Mitchell is a very common name in Mobile.
Oh, I know it is.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah,
and believe it or not, I mean, just to give you a little, this is off college football, but my family were Florida Pioneers here in the Panhandle, the Milton area.
Really?
Absolutely. Yeah. So,
Wow.
yeah, I mean, so there are some Mitchells around for sure.
Yeah.
And there are some connections. But, But anyway.
Well, it's good. It's good to know that some of them are actually a little bit,
There's some of them are smart.
influential. Yeah.
Not all of them are, but some of them are smart. I think that's what he's saying, Rob.
Yeah. Well, we weren't really, I won't guess pioneers. My great grandmother bought a lot in Lynn Haven in 1912 when it was actually Washington County. So
Isn't that crazy?
We've been here a long time.
Wow. Yeah.
Mm.
Well, getting back to the bowls, we had the Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl presented by, how do you say this? STIFL. Is it Stifle or Stifle?
I have no idea.
I have no idea. I didn't watch this game. It's Utah State 24, Oregon State 13. I do remember seeing some highlights of that game. Utah State looked really good.
Yeah.
You know, they've had some really good games this year, and then there's been some disappointing ones as well. Then you had the R&L Carriers New Orleans Bowl, Louisiana 36, Marshall 21.
That was actually a good game.
It was a good game.
Yeah.
It's Marshall looked like they couldn't get things going.
Yeah.
You know,
which is unusual for them. Usually they field a really good team.
And the Louisiana's the Raging Cajuns, right?
Yeah, that's the one where Billy Napier came from.
I always get those confused with the Louisiana Monroe team.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that's where Bradshaw played.
Right.
Louisiana Monroe.
Well, no, I thought he played Louisiana Tech.
No, that's right. You're right.
Louisiana
Yeah, he did
Tech.
play at Louisiana Tech.
The Duck Commander also.
Yeah, Phil.
Phil Robertson played at Louisiana
That's right.
Tech.
I
Yeah.
get all those schools confused over
See,
there.
I do too, but and I hate to say it, I lived in Louisiana, but I thought I had this correct. Louisiana's from they're the Raging Cajuns. But anyway, so the Raging Cajuns put it on Marshall 36-21.
Which that tells a lot lot about Billy Napier really
absolutely.
put together over there.
Yeah. No, a great coach.
If you're a Florida fan, you got to be excited.
Florida should be excited. Now, I think it's going to take him a while.
I do too.
I think they got to be patient with him.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't think what we saw this year is going to happen with Napier.
I don't think it's
He's a more stable force in my mind.
Yeah.
You know, not, prone to
But you remember
ADHD or whatever else was going on.
Well, you remember the excitement though when when Florida went in there and into Starkville and plucked out Dan Mullins.
Right.
I mean, Florida was like, finally.
I like Dan Mullins.
Yeah.
But there's just some times where he just gets kind of freaky. For lack of a better word.
What is the deal?
I don't know. It's like there's just sometimes he short circuits.
Well, it's like Florida has this. I don't know. It started with like Jim McElwain, and remember those goofy comments that he made. I don't even recall what they were now, but that was kind of the reason why they eased him on out the door. And then of course Mark McLeod last Wednesday. Remember the stories he told us about how Urban came in, he was everybody's buddy, and then all of a sudden he just kind of got goofy, you know?
I don't you don't know what's going on there, and we don't have all the facts, but I love watching Mullen, coach, especially at Mississippi State, and then he's had a couple of times to beat some really good teams. I mean, he was coming back against Alabama this year, and then you just wonder, what happened.
Yeah,
after that, it was
the limelight wasn't on him at Mississippi State like it was at Florida.
No, you could win 7 games at Mississippi State. You were good.
Right.
A lot more scrutiny.
And nobody was really expecting you. You could sneak up on people at Mississippi State.
Yeah.
You're not going to sneak up on nobody at Florida.
Nope.
So let's see. This previous Monday, it was the Myrtle Beach Bowl presented by TaxAct. It's Tulsa 30, Old Dominion 17. And then on December 21st, we had the famous Idaho Potato Bowl.
Yeah,
so
I watched
famous
that last week.
that I didn't really know about it.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's easy to find. You just turn on ESPN any night when you sit down and you share his thing.
And so it was Wyoming 52, Kent State 38. That's not surprising to me. Wyoming usually has a very good team.
Yeah.
They're fun to watch.
Yep.
And this is really, to me, what the bowl season's about. Getting to see some of these teams you don't normally watch. Great. Always like to watch Wyoming. The next one was the Tropical Smoothie Cafe Frisco Bowl. San Diego State 38, UTSA 24. And then we get into, I guess it was the Wednesday schedule, December 22nd, Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl, Army 24. Missouri takes it on the chin at 22. I've got some of
that
those
was a close
stats.
game.
Yeah, that was the last second.
It sure was.
Right there at the end.
Did Missouri have a shot at winning it, and something happened at the end?
I thought Army.
Oh, that Army's the one that came back. That's right. That's right.
In the last little bit. And I watched a lot of those. I just don't get to stay up that late to see the end of them. But I get home and that's what I watch. I don't like to watch all that other.
I did have some of the
stuff on TV.
stats here for that game. I pulled some of the stats just because it is an SEC team, and it's kind of disappointing to see an SEC team lose to Army. But Army has a very good team. Nothing.
Well, I'll be honest though. I'm surprised Missouri even made a bowl.
Well, there you go.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So be thankful you
Sure.
got a bowl, you got paid, you got more practice, all the other benefits of a bowl. So
their quarterback and tight end immediately get into the transfer portal. This Connor, I hope I'm saying his name correctly, Basilak. He entered the transfer portal after the loss to Army, and then you had the tight end.
Coach, we lost. I'm leaving.
Daniel Parker, the tight end, he transferred to Oklahoma. So you had two key players to Missouri transfer out. The question is, what does that do to Missouri? How does that affect them next year? Does it make them a whole lot worse? Do they have somebody to replace them? But just to get into a little bit of the game, fourth down efficiency is one of the things that stands out from this game. Fourth down efficiency. Think about that for a minute. Army was 5 and 5 for 5
on
in
fourth down.
Yeah. All right.
You talk about a momentum killer for the other team.
Yeah, that's like a Lane Kiffin thing, right? If you get them, you look brilliant.
Yeah, but if you don't,
if you don't, right, you can look really horrible. But total yards went to Missouri, 433 to Army's 306.
Wow.
So
they just couldn't get it in the end zone.
Right, but they're playing SEC football, a lot of yards, that kind of thing. Passing, Missouri's advantage, 238. Army doesn't really throw the ball. They had 95 passing yards, but they had 95 passing yards. That's almost 100. That's pretty good for Army team.
Yeah.
But when it comes to rushing, Army edged them out, 211 yards to 195 by Missouri. And then in the turnover category, it was Missouri losing the ball on a fumble. And that probably had a huge impact in the game. I did not see this game, unfortunately. When you look at it by quarters, Missouri was up 10-0 at the end of the first quarter. And then Army scored 7. Missouri scored 6 more in the second to make it, 16-7 at halftime. Then Army, pulled away, scored 7 points in the third, with Missouri being, held to no points. Army then gets 10 in the fourth quarter, and Missouri got 6, and you had the final score 24-22.
What a
the
game.
SEC team loses to Army.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things about that too is that when Missouri's up 10-0 in the first quarter, do they go, let that momentum just relax and we
got this, yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's hard to get souped up again. And get it going, especially when you're against a team that's doing nothing but running the football on you.
Right.
They're pounding you the whole time, and then all of a sudden your defense gets – and I think that's what happened to Florida. They just were on the field a lot. You only got your 4 guys. You got nobody to come in behind them and give them a break. And so, Missouri, that's what they did, pound them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Let's take, fourth down and 2. Run right at them, because and that's the thing now. Every time they get a stop on third down, everybody wants to jump up and do that fourth down hand signal. You better start thinking about that, because from now on, a lot of people are going for it on fourth down.
Yeah, it's surprising.
It is.
Now, is Lane Kiffin leading the pack on that deal? Where
he might be, but to me, this is my. I love Lane Kiffin. Don't get me wrong. I mean, when he was at Alabama, I really like his play calling. I don't like his off the field antics. Right? There's been some of that, and hope he matures as a head coach. But I think he's lacking a little bit of maturity in some of that. I mean, if you're playing an Alabama, a Georgia, and you go for it. 4th and 1 on your own 35-yard line.
Yeah, that's.
If you get it, you look like a really genius. But you're risking a lot, because if you don't get it, the other team's likely going to score.
Yeah.
On the next drive.
But if you get it, it tells your team, I believe in you. I know you got it. So it is a huge
But
boost.
sometimes the popcorn bag just spills out.
I know it does. It does.
If you don't get it, that other team goes, he's an idiot.
Yeah, well, of course they do.
Right.
But I don't know. I like his I like his style, and I don't know. I think he's matured a lot, and I think he's going to be extremely effective at Mississippi.
There's no doubt.
So we'll take a timeout. We got a call coming in. We'll get that call here in just a couple minutes. Want to say thanks to a couple of sponsors this morning. Of course, our good friends over at Buffalo Rock, Beth, Chad, and the whole group over there do a lot for Bay County. We appreciate them. Paparazzi Gourmet Deli, Thomas Drive. Make sure you stop by there. It's basically 3 restaurants in one. Bay Point Golf, Ryan Movey. Hopefully he'll be in this week. Not sure because of the holidays, but I want to say thanks to them and all the support they give and the things that they do for the community certainly is appreciated. So we'll take this time out. We're coming right back. Coach James Hale Show is on 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good Monday morning. I'm forecasting partly to mostly sunny skies today. Watch out for some morning fog and the high near 75. Southwest wind at 10. Water temperature in the Gulf 69. Chance of a few showers overnight, partly to mostly cloudy in the mid-60s, and a few more showers expected Tuesday into Wednesday, highs in the 70s. This weather forecast has been brought to you by All About Garage Doors, your garage door repair specialist. For 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida, I'm meteorologist Tim Root.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is the college football playoff semifinal. Alabama-Cincinnati in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic, followed by Michigan-Georgia in the Capital One Orange Bowl. Let's go. Welcome to the show. All eyes on me. Let's go. Let's go. The college football playoff. Coverage begins December 31st at 2:30 Eastern.
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Hello, Tracy's Fine Jewelry.
Hello, Tracy. It's Santa. I'm so busy this year, I really could use your help.
Absolutely, Santa. I'm happy to help.
This year, I want to make sure everyone gets what they ask for, and I know Tracy's Fine Jewelry has the largest selection at the lowest prices.
We sure do, Santa. We have some of the hottest trending styles around, and our cases are packed full of great deals.
Ho, 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 Tracy. I knew you wouldn't let me down.
Folks, shop where Santa shops at Tracy's Fine Jewelry.
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida are proud members of the Panama City Beach Chamber. We'd like to welcome the newest members to the Beach Chamber.
Century 21 Commander Realty, Community Bank Panama City, Emerald Coast Staging, Mr. Moldman Restoration LLC, Trump Store and Conservative Coffee Cup Shop.
Congratulations from the area's only sports radio station, 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Welcome to It's the Coach James Hale Show.
But I believe diversity is an old wooden ship that was used during the Civil War era.
Live from the J. Michael Studio, 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
And welcome back to the Coach James Hale Show. You're listening to ESPN 104.3 Northwest Florida. I'm Dr. Chad Mitchell. I'm sitting here this morning with Randy, and we've got one of our frequent callers, Rob Bauer, here. When we're discussing the bowl games, we'll get back to the list. We just finished talking about Army beating Missouri, The bowl game that followed that was Thursday, December 23rd. The Frisco Football Classic, Miami of Ohio 27, North Texas 14. Miami of Ohio in the highlights looked pretty good. So I didn't watch that game. I'm assuming neither one of you watched it as well.
Which one was? I'm sorry, I was
Miami, Ohio, North Texas.
I did not.
Yeah, I didn't get to see that.
Thursday night, I missed that one. I would try to watch most of it, but that was one I did miss Thursday night.
But the next one is one important to local people and to our state. It was the Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl, UCF 29, Florida 17. I can hear Coach Hale right now telling me that he knows I have a big smile on my face. My daughter went to UCF, and I don't hate Florida. I do like.
So you got money invested in that.
I did have some money invested. I did pay for season tickets. I paid, and this is
was this for her or for you?
This is when she was a freshman. We were going to go down and visit her and go to a couple of the UCF games, and then give some of the tickets away as needed. But I'm going to give you a well-known fact back. Let's see, this was about, 5 years ago?
Oh, this is right before they won the national championship.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I paid, I think it was $439 for 4 season tickets.
That's the whole year.
The entire year. Now, it was up in the nosebleed section.
Right.
But I paid $400 and something for 4 season tickets total price.
No booster contribution. None of that.
Nothing. I mean, and so, man, don't you wish tickets were that price?
Yes.
For some of these other games. I mean, because they're outrageous.
Now, have you looked recently?
I have not looked recently.
I bet you won't get them for $400 bucks anymore.
Given the success of UCF, I'm hoping they're charging a little bit more.
Well, aren't they joining the? Is it the Big 12 this year?
I think it's next year.
Yeah, they're going into a major conference, so you're gonna get to see some big name schools, from that are going to come in and play.
And I think they're set up to handle that too.
Oh yeah, no doubt, because they've got a big enough stadium.
Yep.
It's gonna be, and that's gonna draw some people, because you got a lot of people from up north that moved to Florida.
Yeah,
and they're gonna want to go see those teams play.
Yeah.
Well, I said it last year. When Gus Malzahn, took the UCF job, I told everybody it's a perfect fit. Now,
it really
they didn't have
is.
a perfect season.
Right.
I didn't expect them to have a perfect season. But UCF has been looking for a major coach that can compete on the national scale, and a coach that would stay there. Before UCF has, like Scott Frost comes and he leaves, Josh Heupel leaves. They had coaches coming through, up-and-coming coaches, but they were using UCF as sort of a stepping stone to the next level.
Yeah.
And now UCF has pulled a coach from Auburn.
Right.
Who is used to playing SEC teams, who is playing the other big conferences. Who knows what it means to have the game on the line, and frankly, he's the one that's beat Alabama more consistently than any other coach.
Yeah.
Really? So UCF was able to get Gus Malzahn, and I predicted it last year that, that was a very good hire.
Now that fan base, though, is going to have to be patient, because they're used to going undefeated and playing in a smaller conference and being able to do that, moving into a bigger conference. And I think it's going to be a little tougher than maybe what Gus Malzahn thought it was going to be when he initially took the job. Of course, I don't think he would run from anything, but I'm just saying, like Mark Stoops at Kentucky, that's the perfect job, because you can win 7 games every year at Kentucky, go to a bowl game, and the fan base is ecstatic. I don't know if you can do that at Central Florida.
Well, let me put it this way. When my daughter started going to UCF, they were a little hit and miss. I think Bortles had played there.
Yeah, Blake Bortles.
Yeah, he had played there, and they had
He just signed with the Saints, so
they had risen into the ranks of the top 25, but they were inconsistent. And so my general take on the UCF fan base is that, they get that. I think they're very happy with Gus Malzahn, even though they didn't go undefeated.
Yeah.
I mean, they come to a bowl game. Yeah. Now, Florida was missing some key players.
Right. And a coach.
And a coach. And, Gus Malzahn is able to pull out the win, but it's a big win for UCF. Now, for Florida, does it really mean anything in the big scheme of things? Can Florida recover from this next year? I think Florida's totally capable of recovering.
Yeah.
Using the transfer portal, getting in new recruits, having, Billy Napier come in. I think, Florida's in a reasonable position. You don't look at this loss
right.
as that big of a deal. But for UCF, it's a big deal for recruiting, for trying to be on the national stage and all that. Well, let's get into the game. So,
okay.
UCF scores 29 points on Florida. Florida was able to score 17. In the first quarter, Florida scored 7, UCF 0. And then in the second quarter, UCF came up with 9 points. Florida had 3. And, at halftime, it's a 10-9 game. And I picked up this game somewhere in the second quarter, watching a little bit of it. And to me, it looked like Florida still had control of this game, even though UCF,
really?
To me, I thought they did.
I didn't get to watch it, so.
I was, to me, Florida was bigger, more physical. They seemed to be faster in a way, but what UCF seemed to be doing is the typical Gus Malzahn things. You got smaller players, and I'm not saying Gus Malzahn's had smaller players all of his career, but you'll get what I'm saying here. A lot of finesse.
Yeah.
Finesse with passing routes, finesse with running and the blocking scheme up front. And, I mean, as this game progressed, though, coming out into the third quarter, I thought Florida was going to just come out, make their adjustments and just run away with this game. Oh, just the opposite happened. And I forget who was the big running back for UCF. I can look his name up here, I guess, and find it. But
so the momentum changed after the half and went to UCF. Do you think
it was Bowser? Bowser's his name.
Okay.
Well, UCF had the momentum at halftime.
Okay.
Because they had scored their 9 points or their 10 points at halftime. I guess it was 9, but they had scored there
right before half.
Right before half, so it was really a close game when they were down early, and then they came back. So, and I think they got the ball at half too.
Yeah, they did.
They got the ball.
But they didn't do much with it. I think
they didn't do much with it, but
they exchanged drives.
Florida just, I think they were gassed, chasing.
Really?
And see, when we'll get to that after here in just a few minutes, my thoughts on the other big game we'll have, but. Florida's defensive line, Gus was smoke and mirrors, chase all the time, and which guy did he hand off to,
That's a great description.
And you're a defensive lineman, and they keep telling you, control your gap, control your gap, control your gap.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you keep tackling that guy that don't have the ball, and, and so therefore he's really, that's what it looked like to me. And then Florida just, they were just gassed. I mean, not like it looked like, that you were playing, the third or fourth overtime.
Right.
But once, if you slowed them down that one step,
yeah.
then you got to your hole. You got, they were just that one step.
Did Central Florida kind of step up the speed of the game a little bit?
Oh, that's typical Gus Malzahn.
Yeah.
And it's more like, he's trying to figure out what's going to work early.
Yeah.
Spread everybody out, get them running from side to side, side to side, side to side. And you keep stops because, really, if you're playing a team like Florida, you're not going to beat them to the edge. They're running, their defensive backs.
And they're fast.
Are there.
Yeah.
But them defensive linemen keep running from sideline to sideline, sideline to sideline.
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, the third quarter, their legs are give out.
Yeah.
So, Isaiah Bowser for UCF, 35 carries, 155 yards, 4.4 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns, long of 36-yard run. And I remember seeing that one.
Yeah.
That kid looked extremely good. Gus Malzahn had the right scenario. And I will say that kid basically is the one that was running the clock out at the end of the game. Florida just couldn't stop him.
Yeah.
And, I mean, great running, great scheme. You know, a comment on Florida. I know we're running out of time for this segment. But, you know, Emory Jones, in my opinion, and this is not to knock him. I hope he steps up his game and somebody develops him. But he looked horrible. And, I mean, am I wrong? I mean, he did have, I think, 177 yards passing. But, I mean, balls were way off target. And it wasn't like he was being hit.
Yeah.
He was off. And I couldn't understand it. I don't know what was going on. Were the routes not being run right? You know, what was going on with Emory Jones, but he just didn't look good to me. He didn't look like the Emory Jones we had seen. I realized he had some inconsistency through the season, but he just did not look like the talent we've seen, you know, for most of the season.
How much prep did he put in knowing he's in the transfer portal?
Well, that's a good question.
You know?
So a text came in from Steven. He says, and he's commenting regarding your question earlier about what is momentum. And he says an infectious, positive team mindset.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's a great
Isn't that
definition.
awesome?
Yeah, no, that is awesome.
So thanks to Steven for texting that in this morning. We do appreciate that.
We've all seen it. Yeah.
All right, we'll come back and talk about a little bit more bowl. There's a lot of games coming up just this week. They start, of course, back today. I want to thank a couple of folks, Rudy's Barbecue out on Back Beach Road there. Also thank That Cajun Place, which is That Cajun Place on Thomas Drive. If you haven't been to their new location, get out there and certainly check them out. We're coming right back. This is 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
ESPN Northwest Florida. The Dan Patrick Show, weekdays from 9 till 11.
I was wondering, as controversial as this would sound, they should take away the last weekend of football. The regular season, if they truly care about getting everybody healthy for the postseason, how about you take away week 17?
The Dan Patrick Show, weekdays 9 to 11 on ESPN, Northwest Florida.
Bill Bird Kia would like to say thank you to our customers for the support this year. We will continue to be your local community dealer. Stop by today and test drive a new Kia and see why we have the best overall buying experience anywhere. You can take your holiday adventure in a new 2022 Kia Sportage. Purchase a new 2022 Kia Sportage during the Command the Season holiday sales event and get up to $750 cash back. Bill Bird Kia appreciates you and will treat you like family. Bill Bird Kia is the original home of the 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty. Stop by 2435 East 15th Street, Panama City, or anytime at BillBirdKia.com. You'll enjoy the way we do business.
Not all incentive programs are compatible. Limited time offer and for well-qualified buyers. See dealer for complete program details. The 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty is a Bill Bird Kia warranty. Must take delivery from dealer stock through 1/3/22.
Your home for college basketball. Powered by Pepsi. WGSX Lynn Haven, Panama City. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Barbaritos has been committed to serving farm fresh food since 2000. Barbaritos food is made with love, straight from the heart. Every morning they begin preparing food from scratch. From chopping fresh tomatoes for sauces to mashing fresh avocados for guacamole. Barbaritos cares about food.
For a limited time, between the hours of 6 and 9 p.m., you'll get a free small creamy cheese dip with the purchase of an entree and a drink.
That's Barbaritos on 23rd Street near Hobby Lobby.
Barbaritos. We make it fresh, you make it yours.
Put down your natural light. It's time for the Alabama Update. The Alabama Update, weekday mornings at 8. On the Coach James Hale Show on 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
All right, if you want to do it, you can do it. I'm not.
Roll Tide. Roll. War Eagle.
I'm over here. I'm going to have to record Coach Hale saying that, so that we just throw it in there.
No, I can do it. I like doing it. My wife hates that.
Oh, I bet she does. War Eagle, baby.
But I like saying it for sure. Yeah, I've been an Alabama fan all my life, and it's my dad's fault. He was an Auburn grad.
How in the world do you go from an Auburn grad to an Alabama fan?
My dad loved coaches.
Oh.
He loved watching coaches. And he told me when I was a little kid, I was his firstborn. And he told me when I was little, son, you're watching one of the greatest coaches that's ever walked the football field. And so he watched Alabama and Auburn. And, yeah, he was an Auburn fan, and he rooted against Alabama. But as he got older.
I bet you he watched the Bear Bryant TV show. I bet he ate Golden Flake potato chips.
Now, he liked Pat Dye. He liked, he liked the other coaches and that kind of thing. But, I became an Alabama fan. I was the only one in the family. And
You've got to be kidding me.
It didn't bother my dad at all. He took me to Alabama games. I went to a bunch of Auburn games. That's why I like rooting for both teams.
Well, yeah.
Now when Alabama's playing Auburn, my wife and I are at odds.
I just don't know if I could go to an Alabama game. I just don't.
Really?
Yeah, and it's nothing against the coaches,
it's
the
some of
players.
The bad fans.
Oh my God!
Well, I'm
and
not one of those.
I know. But there are some, but and I've got a friend of mine. Oh, he drives me I don't even. I just get off Facebook when he starts.
It's like live or die.
My God!
Despite the fact that these are, early 20s players that are prone to mistakes and are not perfect, and anything can happen on any given day. But, for me, college football is watching coaches help the psychology of these kids, promote momentum. We've kind of talked about that today. It's been kind of a hot topic.
But people forget about that part of the game. Right. I think a lot of people aren't even aware of that part of the game because
are coaching these
90% of it is right here.
Right.
It's
kids.
knowledge. They're
still kids.
It's motivating.
Right. And so, to me, that's what I like about college football. It's why, when my wife wanted to go to the Auburn Ole Miss game this year, I was like, absolutely. I love going to Auburn games.
So you've been to Auburn. I'm going to tell you something. I experienced Auburn football the first time this year. And I'm going to tell you something, Ben. That is probably one of the coolest places that I have ever been to.
It's a blast.
Oh, my God. The people are friendly. They're polite.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is so well organized. I mean, when that eagle flies out of that thing right above you.
Than that,
you can watch it on TV, videos, whatever. But until you experience it sitting in the stands, it is probably the coolest thing that.
Right. It's one of the coolest things in college football.
Bless.
I like that, and I like when the FSU Seminole comes out. And,
Renegade comes out.
Yeah, the Renegade. And he, spikes the flaming spear in the middle of the field.
That's college football.
Right, that's college football.
Yeah.
And that's really what I like about
the tailgating when you're parked a mile from the stadium, and then about an hour and a half before everybody starts gathering up all their tents and putting everything away and starts headed to the stadium and stuff.
Nothing better.
Right. And there are some bad fans out there.
I know.
I mean, and I get that. And hopefully as they mature in life, they'll come around and become good sports and understand it's a game.
Some will never change.
Not life and death.
Some will never change.
I get it.
It's like they're so arrogant when they win, but then they try to be humble when they lose, and it's fake. It's justification is all it is, and he drives me absolutely nuts, and he better not be listening.
My wife is the same way with some Florida people when they start winning, that she just turns off her Facebook because they just get irate.
So, one of the worst things.
If a Florida fan gets on Facebook and starts just wearing it out, you know what I type in there? I just put Jim McElwain. And then they make a comment. Then I go back to, oh my God, who was the coach that was there? I'll just type in Will Muschamp. Yeah. And that usually just quietens them right down. Yeah. But anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Didn't mean to mess.
Well, one of the saddest things, and I know it kind of divided the state of Alabama. Is when Harvey Updike poisoned those trees at Auburn. What a shame!
And then admitted it on Paul Feinbaum's show.
And what a shame, right? Yeah. You've got a tradition at a school with these old trees, and you're upset that you got beat,
right?
And it's a bunch of kids playing ball. Don't get me wrong, and you got beat, and you somebody throws a jersey on the statue. And you get all upset about that. to the point that you go poison trees, these, legendary trees where they throw toilet paper up. I probably threw toilet paper in one of those trees when I was a little kid going to the Auburn games.
Come on, that early?
Absolutely.
100 year, those,
absolutely.
those are over 100-year-old oak trees.
Yeah.
That's crazy, isn't it?
But here's my point. As an Alabama fan, and I'm a staunch Alabama fan, most people know that. But
Are you embarrassed?
I don't hate Auburn. I was absolutely embarrassed. I don't hate Auburn.
Right.
I want Auburn to thrive. I want that Iron Bowl to be the best rivalry in the country. And honestly, when Alabama, the years there where you had Cam Newton and it looked like that Alabama and Auburn were going to trade national championships into the future, I actually loved that.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I didn't like Cam Newton beating us.
Right.
But I did like watching Auburn win a national championship.
Yeah.
Because they have played that level of ball. So for me, I think people need to really kind of sit back for a little bit and look at the good college football's doing. It's promoting people being excellent at what they do. And yes, it's football, it's a game, but you can take that into other areas of life. And I mean, how many quotes do we use from some of these coaches in our own lives?
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
one of my favorite. Yeah. I love listening to Dabo Swinney.
Yeah.
And I have applied some of the things that he said in my own career.
Absolutely.
Well, when the tornadoes hit Tuscaloosa, Auburn bust their players over to Tuscaloosa the next day.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff you want to see.
And that's what should happen.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, just browbeat each other on the field.
Right.
But
Talk
when the
trash
game's
on
over,
the field,
talk
when the
trash.
game's over,
When the game's over, you shake
extend your
hands.
hand. Absolutely.
Well, in the pros, that's the way they are. You see them out there at the end of the game, they're shaking hands.
Well, they all played together,
Right. Well, and they know it's a, I hate to say it in college, but it's a business.
There's a little kept secret.
Well,
it's and fans. Some of the fans, the obnoxious fans, don't get this. The players know each other.
Oh, sure.
And yeah, there's some of them that fight, right? I get that. But the vast majority of them, believe it or not, Auburn and Alabama fans are visiting each other all season long, and people don't even know about that.
Right.
And I'm sure there's FSU and Florida players doing that.
Right. Yeah.
Like, it transcends, okay, I'm on this team, and I've got this base of fans. I've got a friend. I got a friend that, he's on this team. I'm going to go spend some time with him this weekend,
sure.
or, while we have a bye, those kind of things.
Well, you got to think about
off-season.
even further back than that. I mean, some of these kids played in high school together.
Exactly.
They played in bowl games with each other in high school.
Right. Then they went to maybe they spent college together, or at least maybe competed against each other.
Went on recruiting trips together.
Exactly.
Roomed together while they were at recruits.
That's right.
As a recruit somewhere.
Well, in the spirit of James Hale, we're going to get to this Alabama update here. We've kind of got off a little track, and we may have to extend it.
He'll be proud of you
to the next segment. I hope he is proud of this. But I quoted this earlier, but 92% of vaccinated players at Alabama have now had booster shots. And in other positive news for Alabama, running back Jahmyr Gibbs from Georgia Tech, he transferred to Alabama through the portal. And just to give you some of his stats, in 2020, he ran for 460 yards with 5.2 yards per carry and 4 TDs. In 2021, he ran for 746 yards, 5.2 yards per carry, 4 TDs. Kind of a little bit of consistency there in playing for Georgia Tech. He also had receiving yards. He had 303 receiving yards in 2020, 465 receiving yards in 2021. 3 TDs receiving in 2020 and 2 TDs in 2021. So he can run and catch. He goes to Bama. I'm hoping this is a big positive for Alabama. A lot of the running backs have been injured, and we got really thin earlier this year. In other news, you had coaches O'Brien and I think it's Marone is how to say it. They tested positive for COVID. But will be ready for the playoff games. And then I have some information here, some statistics. Alabama versus Cincinnati. There's been a lot of pairings of, what do they look like on paper statistically? And I just brought out, a few of these little stats. But There are 10 categories here that we'll look at, but scoring offense, it goes to Alabama. They're 4th in the nation. Cincinnati's 9th. Total offense, it goes to Alabama, 6th in the nation, 495 yards, or 495.5 yards per game. Passing offense, Alabama, 7th in the country. It goes to them. Rushing offense goes to Cincinnati. They're 47th in the country, and Alabama's 80th. Then we get to scoring defense. Believe it or not, Cincinnati ranks higher than Alabama in scoring defense. Now, in years past, that might not have been the case. And Coach Hale would argue, well, they hadn't played anybody. But scoring defense, Cincinnati is ranked 4th in the country. Total defense is kind of a wash. You've got Cincinnati at 7 and Alabama at 8 total defense. So I think the defenses match up pretty well.
And that's good because most people think about Cincinnati, it's all about their offense and how many points they put up and all of that. But that's good news if you are a Cincinnati fan, that they can go in there. I hope it is a good game. And what I mean by that, I don't want it to be another one of those Alabama against when they played Notre Dame and got Notre Dame got embarrassed.
They did it twice.
I know. Well, I didn't want to say that, but yeah.
I got a question. I see your notes. All of them have been done in pencil and turkey scratch on there. And the Alabama one's got all pretty colored pictures.
Of course.
He used a crimson ink on it.
Yeah.
Coach Hale will be proud.
That's right.
Anyway,
leave him behind for him.
Do we need to get to some of our sponsors?
Yeah, let's take a quick break here, and we'll come back, talk a little bit more, get into some Georgia stuff as well, because, of course, Georgia will be playing against Michigan in the other game for the championship. But I want to thank J. Michael's Restaurant, Steverson Air Conditioning, Max Fit Sports Nutrition, and dermatology specialist Dr. Ward. So we certainly do appreciate them. We'll take a time out. We're coming right back. The Coach James Hale Show is on 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good Monday morning. I'm forecasting partly to mostly sunny skies today. Watch out for some morning fog and the high near 75. Southwest wind at 10. Water temperature in the Gulf 69. Chance of a few showers overnight. Partly to mostly cloudy in the mid-60s. And a few more showers expected Tuesday into Wednesday, highs in the 70s. This weather forecast has been brought to you by Mid-South Lumber, best little lumber yard in Panama City and Youngstown. For 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida, I'm meteorologist Tim Root.
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida. The Paul Feinbaum Show.
Nick Saban, consistency in performance over a long period of time, and you develop an identity. You can't be complacent. It's a lot of hard work and perseverance. Can't get affected by external circumstances. It all comes down to execution, people playing together, everybody being able to do their job. This team has a lot to prove. Are we making progress? I think so. But we got to continue to work.
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Bestway Portable Buildings has been in the Panama City area since 1989. They've been here longer than anyone else. The reasons? High quality, reasonable prices, and tremendous service. Stop by and see owner Jason Mulder and let him and his staff help you pick out the perfect building for your home or business. Just down from Harts Marine on North Highway 231. Online at bestwayportablebuildings.com. Member of the BBB. Bestway Portable Buildings. The best in portable, period.
At Tyndall Federal Credit Union, we have the perfect loan for any home. Buy a house in the perfect neighborhood with one of our traditional mortgage options. Or take on that fixer-upper with our rehabilitation mortgage. Make the home of your dreams come to life with our new construction loan. Or get a land loan to purchase the lot where you'll build your dream home one day. We have the perfect loan for any home. Only at Tyndall. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing lender. NMLS number 597599.
Tiger fans, join us weekday mornings at 8:15. It's the Bay Point Golf Auburn Update on the Coach James Hale Show at 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Is this Auburn or Georgia?
No, it's Georgia.
It's the Georgia fight song. They're very similar.
Yeah, they very simple.
Welcome back to
you
the
were thinking,
coach.
what the heck is he playing the Auburn one? We talked about Georgia for 10 minutes.
I always think Auburn when I hear that. Anyway, sorry, Georgia fans. Welcome back to the Coach James Hale Show. This is Dr. Chad Mitchell. You're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida 104.3. I'm joined by Randy and Rob here this morning. We just finished talking about some of the Alabama-Cincinnati matchup, and maybe this time we'll talk about Georgia and Michigan and kind of look at that matchup. Any thoughts before I begin this, guys, from either one of you? I mean, this is in my opinion, billed to be a great game, a great matchup. I like how Michigan has put themselves in this position at the end of the season, playing their best ball. Who's going to peak? Has Georgia peaked, with that loss in the SEC championship game?
And what does that do to their psyche?
Are they going to rise? And I predict that Georgia's going to rise up. I just, I think they're that good a team, and I think Kirby Smart's really good. I think you're going to see Georgia rise up, and if Michigan plays their best ball, I think this is a ball game, guys.
Yeah. Both of the coaches have a lot riding on this game. I just think Michigan, everybody thought, well, when they beat Ohio State, that they were tapped out. That was their big thing.
That was their national championship.
That saved Harbaugh his career.
Yeah, but they've had an awesome year.
They're very good, and so it's going to be line up and pound the ball, and then they got a quarterback I think that's good enough to if the play action, if they can get a little bit of a running game started, play action's gonna work for them, and they might give Georgia all they can give them. And if they get a touchdown and a half or 2 touchdowns up on Georgia, where does Kirby go? Does he freak out and panic like he has in some of the other games, where he's kind of turned around looking at the assistant coaches like, what's going on? What are we doing?
Right. I don't know. My prediction is I think Michigan's going to win. I really do.
There are people that think that for sure.
Yeah.
I find that.
Well, 2 of us.
Yeah, I find it a little hard to believe.
He just got it.
Wait a minute, where's Eddie at?
I know. I just think the momentum is in Michigan's favor.
Well, I would agree with that. But I think also Georgia having the wake-up call in the SEC championship game against Alabama. Do I think Georgia can beat Alabama? Absolutely I do. I still believe that. I believed it all season. Was I a little shocked that, Alabama was able to pull away in that game? Yes. But at the same time, I watched what Saban did. And it's what Harbaugh's going to have to do. And I don't know if Harbaugh will – I'm hoping he thinks this way. But, Georgia's defensive line, you're not going to run straight at them. If you're running straight at them, it's advantage Georgia. If you're running them side to side and you're trapping them, you're doing the things that make them work constantly, and you're using a hurry-up offense, that is what's going to wear Georgia's defensive line out and make them ineffective. But if you don't do that, if you just line up and play smash-mouth football, run right at them and think that you're going to beat them and push that line of scrimmage, you're wrong. Georgia has got a great defensive line. Now, barring any kind of COVID, injuries that we don't know about, those kind of things, that's my opinion, and I think that's where the game hinges. If they can do what Alabama did and make that front defensive line of Georgia ineffective, and they can throw the ball, when they need to, I think that's the key to me.
Well, Harbaugh being the offensive mind coach that he is, he has spent probably every waking moment changing, giving them stuff that they have not seen yet. Georgia's going to work on exactly what Alabama attacked, and that's what they're going to try and improve on. So, and I just don't think Harbaugh, if he's smart, he's going to say, I'm not going to try and do what I'll have a little bit of that in there just to see if it works.
Yeah.
But he's going to change a completely different scheme of what he's done all year, to try and show them stuff they haven't seen.
So can Kirby get 99 in shape enough to run sideline to sideline in 3 weeks?
Hey, if I'm him, I'm telling him, look, these are your 2 gaps. don't chase that guy, 20 yards down the field.
Yeah,
Because
stay
if
at
you
home.
Stay
Play
at
key.
home.
Yeah.
And if you turn and if you're seeing what we used to call A's and elbows, let it go, because you're not going to catch him.
Right.
So there's no sense in you exerting all that energy running down there. Now, you just make sure he don't run between the two A gaps, and
there you go.
We're good.
There you go.
How many times do you think Harbaugh has watched that Alabama-Georgia game?
He might not have – the tape may be wore out by
I
now.
guarantee it's wore out.
Right. He may have had to make 2 or 3 copies before he started watching it.
But does he have the players to do that? I mean, I'm just asking the question. I'm not trying to make Alabama out to be the greatest team. They obviously have some weaknesses. But, I mean, do you have a Williams on the sideline that you can just run straight down the field and throw the ball to him deep? Does Michigan have that? They do have some quality players.
I think so, too.
But you're probably going to have some kind of blown coverage with Georgia, to make that happen. And I think Harbaugh definitely is capable of creating some blown coverages for Georgia.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, he's an offensive guy, so
yeah, right. But so they're going to need some of that explosiveness, to make that happen.
And and there again, you have to look: can their quarterback find that guy that's wide open? Can they give him enough time to protect him to find that guy? We're going to have to roll him out to give him time. It's going to hinge on Georgia's front four and blitzing a guy coming from somewhere that they don't see him coming from.
Yep. And I just think Georgia's linebackers and front line are excellent. And, Harbaugh, that's Harbaugh's challenge. I think he knows that.
I think he does, too.
He's a smart guy. He knows that's coming. So just to give you some of the statistics here, just to kind of, show you what the matchup is looking like. Believe it or not, in some areas, I mean, Michigan and Georgia are basically the same. And so, we're talking here is, Georgia's got the superior defensive line. Well, they're pretty close in some of these categories. So anyway, Michigan has the advantage in rushing offense, believe it or not. Georgia is 28th in the nation. They are Michigan's number 9. For passing offense, believe it or not, Michigan has the advantage. They're 19th in the nation, and Georgia is
Harbaugh.
26th. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, rushing offense, passing offense, advantage Michigan.
And Michigan has not had an easy schedule. They've played some great teams.
Sure they have. But here's one of the categories, and this is what I was alluding to earlier. Scoring defense. Georgia is number 1 in the nation. Now, don't get me wrong. Michigan's 4th, right? But Georgia has an excellent defense when it comes to, stopping opponents from getting in the red zone or getting through the red zone, obviously for a touchdown or even field goals. They're allowing 9.5 points per game. Now, Bama exposed them a little bit, so, Michigan's got some tape to look at, right? So, rushing defense, Georgia's 3rd in the nation. Michigan's 21st.
That's close, though.
Right. It's close. Georgia passing defense has an advantage. They're 3rd in the nation, and Michigan's 22nd. Georgia total defense, they're number 2 in the nation, and Michigan is 12th.
Can Georgia's offense score?
Well, and here's the question.
That's going to be the game. Can
And
Georgia's
without,
offense score?
are they going to allow turnovers?
Is this going to be a 10-9 game?
So you've got a defensive head coach and you've got an offensive head coach.
Right.
And the question is that it's going to be an interesting game.
Does defense win championships?
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's going to be right. It's going to be a great game. Now, is it going to be, that you turn the ball over deep in your own territory and they kick 3 field goals, and you do happen to find one guy late in the game that can score a touchdown, and it's a 9-7 game.
Yeah.
I think this is billed to be a great game. I think it meets all those criteria.
It's the nighttime primetime game.
Absolutely. And
you don't think that
that's going to be a fun one to watch. I'm just telling you.
2 more stats though here. Georgia scoring offense, they're number 7th. Michigan's 13th, and Georgia passing offense, they're 52nd, and Michigan is 67th. So, I mean, there's some of the stats. And
they're just so close.
They're very similar teams, it seems, right? Yeah. It seems like their defenses are really good. They're, rushing and passing. They're a little off, maybe advantage Michigan, but, just looking at a lot of this, I mean, the advantage, in my opinion, is Georgia's defense. But, I mean, Michigan's got the fourth best scoring defense, so they're right there with them. Fully capable. Obviously, Michigan's had a lot of momentum, and that's been the term in this show this morning. And so there's a lot of momentum going their way. Obviously, Georgia's been sort of stifled by that SEC game, but I fully expect them to bounce back after 3 weeks with Kirby Smart.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So
hopefully their mind will be right.
How are we with time?
We're okay on time.
Okay? I didn't know if we had couple minutes we needed to get some of our sponsors, but any comments on the Georgia Michigan game, or even going back to the Alabama Cincinnati game?
I think this Georgia Michigan game is going to be our true national championship game, and I think in the end, I think the national championship game probably will be between Alabama and Michigan.
That would be a great matchup.
I know.
It would.
Harbaugh against Saban.
Much as I like watching Georgia, Alabama, Saban versus Harbaugh, there's no love lost there, with Harbaugh coming down and have recruiting clinics and all that he did.
In his backyard.
Exactly. Down here in the South. And,
But that Harbaugh reminds me a lot, initially reminded me a lot of Lane Kiffin. Came into the SEC country, stirred the pot a little bit, with all that. Yeah. And then, struggled a bit at Michigan.
Right.
And fans weren't happy. Well, now it's like he's, interviews that he does are quick and just to the point and goes on. There's none of this, long drawn out, speeches and stuff. He seems more focused. So I think, I don't know. I think I like the way he's coaching football right now.
Oh yeah, no, he's becoming the coach that we thought he was going to be early on. But, he's definitely turning it on here and took a pay cut to get there.
Yeah, exactly. So
I got to admire that a little bit.
All right, we'll take a quick time out. We'll come right back. Thanks to our friends at Newbies, of course, with multiple locations in and around Bay County. Our friends at Buffalo Rock, thank them, Chad, Beth, all the folks back there in the warehouse listening this morning. We certainly appreciate you and what you do for Bay County. Paparazzi Gourmet Deli, 3 restaurants in one. One of the best pizzas in Bay County, Paparazzi Gourmet Deli. Coming back, 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida is your home for the NFL.
And this crowd is going crazy.
We bring you the biggest games every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday night. Your every bone-crushing hit right here. The NFL is brought to you locally by Certified Gearhead Motorsports. Home of the $30 synthetic oil change.
Touchdown!
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida are proud members of the Panama City Beach Chamber. We'd like to welcome the newest members to the Beach Chamber.
Century 21 Commander Realty, Community Bank Panama City, Emerald Coast Staging, Mr. Moldman Restoration LLC, Trump Store and Conservative Coffee Cup Shop.
Congratulations from the area's only sports radio station, 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
We have some trick-or-treaters. Happy Halloween. Ah, not the IRS.
Afraid of some scary folk showing up at your door? Not ghouls and goblins. Tax collectors. If you owe more than $10,000 in back taxes and haven't filed in years, the IRS wants you to pay up. The IRS can freeze your bank accounts, but you don't have to face this monster alone. Call the Tax Doctor for a free case review of $500 value. The Tax Doctor has years of experience to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress.
Not again. Are you supposed to be a superhero?
No, I'm the tax doctor.
Don't fear the IRS. Call now.
800-520-0735. 800-520-0735. 800-520-0735. That's 800-520-0735.
I don't always talk to Alabama fans, but when I do, I ask for large fries. Now back to the Coach James Hale Show on 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
War Eagle. Hey! I think I said this on the show before. My wife thinks I'm sexy when I say that.
Bless her heart.
I think that's what Coach Hale said when he found out I did it. Anyway, my wife is a rabid Auburn fan.
Good.
And I would be remiss to not talk kindly of them in this upcoming game. And anyway, we're going to talk about that game.
It's tomorrow.
It is. And it's at noon.
Yes, it is.
It's at noon on ESPN.
It'll be live right here.
Number 20 Houston
Mm-hmm.
versus Auburn.
That'll be a good
like
game.
you said, they can listen to it here on ESPN 104.3.
Yeah, we'll start the pregame at about 11.
Okay, good.
And then kick at 12.
All right. Anyway, I'm looking at the matchup of Auburn versus Houston. Obviously, you know, Auburn's got some issues. You know, they've had they had 3 players opt out. They've got Roger McCreary opting out. Great cornerback. Really sort of a shutdown corner, if you will.
Now, when you say opt out, does that mean he's leaving the team and going pro?
I didn't look into the specifics of that, but it can be COVID related. It can be worried about injuries, that kind of thing. But yes, most of it seems to be worried about going pro.
Because when I think opt out,
yeah,
you know, opt out is you're going to put your name in for the draft, or you're in the portal to transfer somewhere else. Because the whole opting out for bowl games, you know, my feelings certainly mirror Coach Mike Leach's. You know, you have an obligation to your team. It's time to play. It drives me nuts.
Yeah, you know you're there to play football, and I get injuries are part of it.
Well, most of the coaches, when they do the bowl week, your juniors and your upperclassmen really don't practice the first 5 or 6 days.
Right.
It's all the younger guys, the underclassmen, to give them practice time, let the coaches look at them for the next year and everything else. And then when they start putting the game plan in is when the other guys come in, and then it's just shells and stuff. So it's, you know, to me, if you're opting out, you're basically, it's not like you're having to run, you know, work real hard to get towards and get in there and play.
Right.
You know, practice. So if you're opting out, you're basically telling them you're not going to be here next year. Rather, it's because you're either talking to an agent, which now you can talk to an agent anytime, so it doesn't really matter what, you know. But I don't understand why you would opt out if you're a sophomore or a junior, unless you're just, you know, why would you not just say, I'm going into the portal, I'm not going to be here next year? You're just opting out not to play. Because if you're worried about getting hurt,
yeah,
you might get hurt in spring training.
Sure, yeah. Absolutely. So the 3 that are opting out for Auburn: Roger McCreary, Zacoby McLean, who's the linebacker, and Brodarius Ham, who is the right tackle. For Houston, Marcus Jones is opting out. And so you're missing those players. We've got TJ Finley starting for Auburn. Been a little inconsistent, had an injury at the end of the season.
They say he's 100% for the bowl game.
And he should be,
yeah.
Just based on what I know.
I'm curious to see him to start, especially after, you know, what he did in that Iron Bowl was impressive. I mean, it really was, especially, the first 3 quarters, a little different game in the fourth. But but I'm anxious to see because Bo Nix is no longer in the picture. The offense is his.
And it's been his.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
So I think he's going to put up a good game. And a lot of Auburn fans, when it was announced that, Auburn was going to the Birmingham Bowl, it was like, oh, man, just the Birmingham. But I'm telling you, they're playing number 20 Houston, and this is going to be a really good game.
I'm hoping so. I hope Auburn, shows up like they did against Ole Miss.
Yeah.
I was at that game, and I'm going to tell you, Harsin had the best game plan to deal with Lane Kiffin, and they took it to Ole Miss. Now, it was Auburn's defense, and what was it in the Alabama-Auburn game? It was Auburn's defense that was the main story of that game, right? Alabama couldn't score until late in the fourth quarter.
Right.
Auburn's defense. If Auburn's defense shows up like we've seen them this year, Houston's going to have their hands full. And, so it really depends, okay, which Auburn team are we going to see? Are we going to see that great defense? But with McCreary being out, it adds a little bit of an element there. He was part of that. So was Zacoby McClain. They're part of that. And so, are the younger guys able to step in and really, have a cohesive defensive unit, to
who was the kid, the running back? Is it Tank Bigsby?
Yeah.
He left. And I think that's probably a good thing.
No, I thought he stayed. I thought he came back.
Did he come back?
Yeah, I thought Harsin talked him out of the portal.
Ah, okay, gotcha.
So that's the question. Is this Tank's big game?
I must have missed that.
During the Alabama game, at halftime, Alabama had the ball like 20 minutes, and Auburn only had it 10.
Right.
So, or vice versa. Auburn's defensive line had not been on the field but like a third of the time. So they were not as give out because that's what their problem was. They were thin at defensive line. So they were rested. So that's why they got to go in deep into the game. And if Auburn's quarterback hadn't gotten his leg hurt.
Oh, could you imagine?
Right.
Been a different outcome.
It would have been a different outcome. Yeah. Totally different.
Yeah.
So
I'm excited about watching this game. And, you say what you want. There's, it's always difficult on a first-year coach. Always a lot of criticism. But you know what? I think Brian Harsin gets an A for what he accomplished at Auburn. Coming in there first
He's
season.
Done a lot. I'd give him a B.
Okay.
Well, you're deeper into the program than
nice an Alabama fan.
I watched him make a couple of calls this year. 4th and 1 against a good defense in his own territory. I hate that.
Yeah.
I mean, people have heard me say it on the air multiple times. I think your mature coaches don't do that.
Right.
Now, don't get me wrong. Army proved me wrong, right? We were talking about that earlier.
Yeah.
They went 5 for 5 on 4th downs. Who knows? Sometimes, and Lane Kiffin does it sometimes, but not all the time.
Right.
I think a mature coach sticks to those statistics.
If you can't get it done in 3, then we're gonna punt.
Yeah. And we're changing the field. Make them drive the field. Make them drive the field.
Yeah. Now, if it's the first couple of games of the season and you're playing your cupcakes, then hey, it's a little different. But if you're in a big game, especially a conference game, and like you said, if you're down in your own territory, you just punt it. And
do I think he's got? Do I like his maturity level more than, say, Lane Kiffin? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think Harsin's a more mature head coach than Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin's exciting. I love watching him, when he's, pregame and he's all hyped up or he's showing up on the pregame shows. He's very entertaining.
Yeah.
Love that side of it. But Harsin is business, and I think Auburn's got a very good coach if they'll stick with him.
Yeah, I do too.
So one of the keys to this game is going to be how Houston shows up. Houston, they lost to Cincinnati in the AAC championship game.
That's Cincinnati.
Yeah, it's Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. So Houston is, they're not a bad team. Ordinarily you would think, Auburn versus Houston. Oh, it's always Auburn. But I think this game is going to be a great one to watch. And again, it's
they're well coached.
Yep.
Former coach from West Virginia is their head coach. So Dana Holverson, used to be at West Virginia, is now their head coach. I think he puts together. His teams are exciting to watch.
Well, and if Cincinnati beats Alabama, they can say, "Hey, we just barely lost to Cincinnati, and they're playing
the national championship team."
I mean, so Houston's got a lot to play for.
Yeah, that's true.
They do. So when you look at some of the season stats, you've got Houston with an advantage of average points scored. Houston has 37.3. I'm assuming that's per game. It doesn't say here on this list, but Auburn's 29.6. When it comes to average points allowed, Auburn's actually given up more, 22.2, than Houston at 21.0. When it comes to average total yards per game, Houston has the advantage roughly by about 10 yards per game, so it's pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
And then total yards allowed, Auburn's allowed 370.7 yards per game to Houston's 298.8 per game. When it comes to giveaway turnovers, there's a tie. They've each given away 12. And when it comes to takeaways, big advantage Houston. They've had 22 takeaways to Auburn's 10. So, those are just some of the stats to throw out.
So Auburn can't make any dumb mistakes. You got to control the ball.
I mean, but that's the case with any team, right? You don't, if you're making dumb mistakes, penalties, turning the ball over, it's going to be hard to beat a good team in a bowl game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the key to it all, is turnovers.
Right.
So we'll see.
Yep, we'll definitely see.
I think it's going to be a fun game to watch.
The other news here is, you've got Austin Davis coming in to replace Mike Bobo. What's that going to look like? And then of course there's the news of Bo Nix going to Oregon, which I don't think anybody's really surprised about. We knew Bo Nix was leaving. Is it a smart move? I didn't think it's smart on his part. He's got 2 more years of eligibility, and he's got horse in there that could develop him.
No, I think he saw the writing on the wall. I really do.
No doubt. And you're going to Nike, but still, I thought that he was going to Central Florida. You got a coach that you knew his offense and knew his
But maybe there wasn't a spot for him.
Maybe
but
he just said,
good luck. You made the correct point. He's going out there with Nike. And I think that's part of it. I mean, that name, image, and likeness thing is real. I think that's part of what he's trying to do there. Don't know for sure, but that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
But I just don't know.
I think it's a good thing for Auburn. He's been so inconsistent, and I think Brian Harsin, went with him this year just to say, hey, you know what? He's been our starter. I'm going to go with him. But I think him leaving Auburn is going to be a good thing for that football team.
Well, when they benched him and he came back in the next game, he played the game of his life.
Well, yeah, because he knew his starting position was on the line.
And then he kind of leveled off a little bit, but that one game saved his. But I just don't think Oregon is that's a long ways from Alabama.
Auburn. Yeah, it is what it is. All right, we'll take our final timeout. We're coming right back. Talk a little more bowl games after this break. We'll see you in just a minute. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good Monday morning. I'm forecasting partly to mostly sunny skies today. Watch out for some morning fog and the high near 75. Southwest wind at 10. Water temperature in the Gulf 69. Chance of a few showers overnight. Partly to mostly cloudy in the mid-60s. And a few more showers expected Tuesday into Wednesday, highs in the 70s. This weather forecast has been brought to you by All About Garage Doors, your garage door repair specialist. For 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida, I'm meteorologist Tim Root.
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida is your radio home for live and local sports coverage. For the most high school and college sports from right here in our local area, it's the Coach James Hale Show, weekday mornings 7 till 9. Then the ride home is alive and kicking with the afternoon underdogs, covering the gamut of sports. Plus, you can win free prizes from amazing local businesses every weekday from 4 till 6. Your local sports station is ESPN Northwest Florida.
Their first ride home, their first drive alone, and everything in between. These are memories money can't buy. but you can buy the car that makes them all possible with an auto loan from Tyndall Federal Credit Union. You deserve banking that works as hard as you.
Didn't receive all you wanted for Christmas? Then you need to visit That Boot Store and use that Christmas cash. Or maybe you received a That Boot Store gift card? Shop the huge selection of name brand Western wear and work clothes, along with all the accessories. That Boot Store. Open Tuesday through Thursday, 9 to 5. Friday and Saturday, 9 to 5:30. Next to Bill Bird Kia on 15th Street. Remember what Joe said, always keep Jesus in your new year.
Their first ride home, their first drive alone, and everything in between. These are memories money can't buy, but you can buy the car that makes them all possible with an auto loan from Tyndall Federal Credit Union. You deserve banking that works as hard as you.
And here we go. The #1 SEC call-in show is now twice as big. The Paul Feinbaum Show. Weekday evenings 6 to 10. Now back to the Coach James Hale Show on 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
And welcome back to the Coach James Hale Show. You're listening to ESPN 104.3 Northwest Florida. This is Dr. Chad Mitchell here filling in for Coach James Hale. We've got Randy, Rob, and Brian's just showed up. So we're
How about that?
hoping
Let
to have
anybody in.
we're hoping to have a great
Gotta change that
ending
code.
segment here to this show, and we hope Coach Hale is having a good time off and doing some fun things. And again, we invite anyone and everyone that's got a good story on Coach Hale to call in.
Yeah, we only want good stories, and that's it.
The really good ones.
Absolutely.
So what we'll probably try to do here in this segment is try to run some of the bowl games, unless we have a caller.
Yeah, we'll take a quick phone call. Good morning and welcome in.
Good morning. I have a quick comment on what y'all were talking about earlier about going for two.
Yeah, go ahead.
The service academies and the teams that run that triple option have been doing that forever. I went to a Notre Dame versus Navy game about 5 years ago in Jacksonville. My daughter and son-in-law both went to the Naval Academy, and so they came down for the game, and it was a beautiful day in Jacksonville. And Navy won the game on the last drive. They took up 7 minutes for the last drive and went down and scored and won the game by 2 or 3 points. Going for two multiple times, knowing that Notre Dame couldn't get the ball back. And I've seen Navy do that many times over the last 10 or 15 years, even before the current coach when Paul Johnson was there. They do that routinely. And so Army doing that to Missouri is not a big deal. I mean,
That's what they do. Yeah, that's right. Yep, and I agree with that. I've seen the military schools do that, through the years. Exactly what you said. I think I saw that same game you mentioned that, where Navy drives down the field and just takes all the time off the clock and wins the game. Absolutely.
And it's for those teams. The key down is first down. If they can get 4, maybe even 5 yards, 3. In other words, they just keep grinding it, and you've got to play football to stop it, because you can either give it to the fullback up the middle, you can hand it off, or the quarterback can pull it back and run it, and it's just. It's not fun to play against because they do all the chop blocking and everything.
All right, man. Well, thanks a lot. Appreciate you calling.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, if you run that kind of offense and you're always 3 yards in a cloud of dust, you got to go for it on 4th down.
Well, there you go.
Or you got to punt.
Well, and that's what Army did to beat Missouri.
Right.
Absolutely. 5 for 5. I mean, that's impressive.
That is very impressive.
It really is. Hey.
So they give themselves an extra down.
That's exactly what they did. And to the caller's point, if they get good yardage on first down, they're set up to get the rest of the yardage for the first down and keep moving.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I thought watching that Army game was how
unbelievably emotional the Army-Navy game is. Because if you watched Army all year, they were a solid football team all year. They were a great football team in that bowl game. How they lost to Navy, if you look at it on paper, you can't figure out until you watch that Army-Navy game. And that's such a fun game to watch, and it's so emotional. But
well, you know, the big word this morning in the whole show was momentum.
Momentum.
That falls in that category.
Sure
we were
does.
talking about over the weekend. An article was brought up. You know, is momentum real? Does it exist? And one of the news people was questioning. You know, is it real? Can you give a statistic to it? Whatever. Well, I think it's more psychology, emotion, you know, chemistry. You know, it's kind of hard to put a complete label on it. And we had I guess a guy that texted in.
I thought it was great.
Yeah, that's a great.
An infectious, positive team mindset.
We need to make a poster with that.
That's exactly right.
I mean,
do we have to credit him with it?
Every game. Well, once we use it twice, we have to give him the credit.
Oh, it's twice. Okay, gotcha.
It's one of those things you can't define, but you can't deny it.
Right.
Because you know it's there. You just can't define it.
Well, you know, how many coaches try and fix their game and play to where, you know, as long as we can keep it close to the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Keep it close to the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
You know?
And then you hope the momentum's
That's exactly what I was about to say.
And that happens.
It's similar to that notion of athletes being in the zone.
Oh,
it's the same kind of thing. You just can't define it, but you know it exists.
Yeah. Yep. Well, let's talk about some of the games that are coming up tomorrow, because 3 of these games are going to be here on the radio show here at ESPN 104.3 Northwest Florida. The first is at noon Eastern time or 11 Central. It's the Ticket Smarter Birmingham Bowl, and this is the game we were talking about in the previous segment, Houston versus Auburn. Again,
now, what is considered a protective stadium bowl or protective stadium in Birmingham? Is that the old is that a new stadium there in Birmingham?
It's brand new. It was made for UAB, wasn't it?
No,
or
it
am I
was
wrong?
made for Jacksonville State, isn't it?
Well, UAB's using it too. But it's beautiful.
Is it really?
It's not that big. They kind of did like South Alabama a little bit.
Yeah, I went to South Alabama last weekend, and that's a
stadium right down.
Not huge, but it's a well-built stadium.
I know you can see it from Top Golf. I can attest to that personally.
Well, that's good to know.
It's UAB that's using it.
Yeah,
that's
it's a beautiful stadium.
But just know you're going to be able to listen to this Auburn-Houston bowl game here on ESPN 104.3. And following that game is going to be the Serve Pro First Responder Bowl with Air Force versus Louisville. That's at 3:15 Eastern or 2:15 Central Time. And again, that's here on ESPN 104.3.
That'll be a good game.
Yeah, that'll be a great game. And Louisville's like your favorite team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there you go. Did you go to Louisville, or what's the story?
No,
here?
I spent 21 years in the city.
In Louisville. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
So
really
you're a real fan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Walk the sideline, sit on the court, things like that.
Awesome. Well, the third game in the radio lineup.
Oh, this is going to be a good one.
Yeah, is the AutoZone Liberty Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
This is Mississippi State versus Texas Tech, and it's at 5:45 Central Time or 6:45 Eastern. And again, you can listen to these 3 ball games here at ESPN 104.3 Northwest Florida.
And here's the interesting part of that, is that former Texas Tech head coach is now the head coach at Mississippi State, and he has already thrown out some little jabs at Texas Tech. So he said, they still owe me money. Hopefully they'll bring a check.
Yeah, there is no love lost there.
Oh.
That's going to be interesting to see how that all,
It will be. That's always
honestly,
fun.
it's the best thing, and it's probably the best opponent Mississippi State could have drawn.
Yeah.
Because Leach will be zoned in on that, and he's going to make sure his players are as well.
Yeah, it's going to be that'll be a fun game to watch. I'm excited about that one, and certainly an even better one to listen to on the radio.
If they win, I want to hear his after the game comments.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. Well, that's the end of the show. You're listening to the Coach James Hale Show, ESPN 104.3 Northwest Florida.
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
The afternoon underdogs. Hi, this is Old School, and back in my day, we didn't have online banking. We had inline banking. We stood in line for hours, and we liked it that way. They gave us a lollipop. Not so bad. Find out what else was going on back in my day, weekdays, starting at 4. We're live and local on the Afternoon Underdogs.